day, the responsibility rests on his shoulders. So there is a lot of pressure on this guy.
Yeah, and you saw in that tweet, he said, you know, I played the jungle at a hotness level. See you next week, but give me captain. Now he's got his captain. So I would say he's still likely the player to watch just because he really needs to step up, really needs to, you know, go back to this role where he is more comfortable and play at the highest level possible to enable his teammates.
Now, you mentioned Baron for Hundo.
Yeah, they should secure the Baron here, but they're going to go with Lance. Lyra's open. A lot of people, Baron is good against Lance. So this is a very interesting draft. Lance actually was not picked a lot in all of the other games that we saw earlier today. He wasn't picked at all or banned. So it's interesting to see that why they're prioritizing Lance here when Arden has been more of a priority for Europe in general in terms of the meta. So I think Dynasty here, I don't think they want to play Lyra into Lance, so they potentially could go with Arden here. But Baron's open. Baron is extremely good into Lance, and with a Lyra, Baron Lyra is going to be extremely strong together.
And not only that, but taking Baron just takes it away from G2, who is, you know, Hundor last season, we always talked about how his Baron was so incredibly good. It's one of his best heroes, but it's not being prioritized, which is just a head scratcher.
You have to wonder whether it's just a matter of Baron is so permanently banned that players don't really want to play because they're maybe out of practice.
Yeah, that could be the case too. They're going to ban in the second phase, which is smart because they needed to. Now Dynasty is going to probably pick up the Vox here, I'm assuming. But they can also do potentially Glaive because PT Lamb is so strong on Glaive and secure that and deny the Glaive Lance combo that is so strong or was known to be strong. But Vox is looking really good because Vox is actually really good against Lance. He's very mobile. He can dodge a root. He's also good against Glaive. They do pick Glaive into Vox because Vox can kind of dance around the Glaive. But they're going to go ahead and opt for the Idris first instead, which leaves Glaive and Vox open. So I think G2 will probably go with the Glaive pick here or Vox.
We'll have to see. They do have 2 picks available as well, so I'm curious to see what kind of combo they go for here. I mean, what direction would you usually go, Bacon, if you're up against this Idris Arden? Like, what does that spell out to you?
It spells out to me that they're looking for some really hard engage. Deep line diving is what Idris is very good at doing, especially if you have that extra little bit of movement speed coming from the Arden. So I would like to see something that has a little bit of tankiness to it. Like the Glaive, I think would be a great pick. Samuel is okay against Idris. You know, you do have a lot of burst against him, but Idris can just maneuver around the fight so incredibly well that there could be a bit of struggle there.
Well, Samuel is going to be the jungle lock-in for G2. Well, I assume it's the jungle lock-in. We've seen a lot of lame Samuel coming out the last few days. Well, specifically
We've
from
only seen it from SK.
We'll see. I would assume it's going to go jungle.
They could go Kestrel here, Weapon Kestrel potentially, because that's what they did play at one point last weekend. He did a Weapon lane Kestrel, so we could see that coming out, but I think the best case here would be Glaive or Vox. I would like to see Glaive because there's such a heavy dive comp with Arden and Idris. Glaive is going to be perfect to protect the Samuel. And Samuel isn't a good pick here because he doesn't have Arden. Arden with an Assassin is going to completely counter the Samuel. And yep, they're going with the Glaive here. And now Arden is going to counter, like I said, Arden Samuel is really good against Assassins, but you have Arden against the Samuel, that's going to work really well. So now they can pick a lot of like heroes that can dive. Maybe go with CP Blackfeather. Idris can get on top of Samuel as well. They can go with Taka. There's a lot of options that they can pick. Even Koshka too. Koshka would be really good into this composition because she's really strong against Glaive and Samuel in the early game.
We'll see if that's the direction they go in. 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to finish out this composition? What would you like to go with that's specifically good against G2, Bacon?
There's a few options. Actually, Koshka would not have been one that I would have said just from the Samuel and Glaive on the opposition side, but they're going to definitely looking to be extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
Both of these heroes being heavy assassin.
Yeah, something that works with their comp rather than against the G2 comp. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So looking at the final compositions then, it's looking like a very aggressive game coming out from Dynasty.
Yeah, I like Dynasty's draft. Like I said, Arden is so good into Samuel with Koshka, with Idris. 2 heroes that just get on him and just push him out the Drifting Dark and just explode him. As long as they keep focusing Samuel and explode him, they're going to win every fight. If they focus Glaive instead and let Samuel hit Malice and Verdict on and they get that AoE damage on top of the melee, you know, divers, then they're going to lose the fight. So I think as long as they focus Samuel, they're going to win every single fight. Easy.
At the same time, though, I really like the protection that G2 has for the Samuel. With a Lance and a Glaive, those two are going to go a long way towards keeping those assassins away from the Samuel. So I'm going to say that I actually like the draft of G2 a little bit better because they have a little bit stronger of an identity in terms of protect Samuel and then re-engage versus the just go all in, engage, that's all we can do on the side of Dynasty.
So it's very much that Dynasty want a very fast, very bursty fight, and on the other side you've got G2 who want to kite back. They want to play this very slow, and if they can get the fight last long enough, then they'll be able to edge it out. We'll see if those are going to be coming to pass as we head on into this game. Hashtag Vainglory8 is how you can let us know who you're going to be voting for in this game. This was the most hyped matchup according to my Twitter followers. We'll see whether it is going to live up to that name, whether we go to 3 games, as we pass it over to our casters and head into our final European matchup.
Very much, guys, over on the desk. One of his jaws joined by AJ for our final best of 3 of the day. Hyped match in G. G2 sitting at 0 points right now with Dynasty sitting at 9. This is a match to look out for because G2, such dominating performance in spring and coming back and not looking so hot, AJ.
They really haven't been, but at the same time, Dark Potato had mentioned he was going on a brief hiatus from the game. Now he's back. He was a key component of the lineup during their successful spring season. On the other hand, looking at the other team here, Dynasty, this is a team that had kind of a mediocre week 1. Then they really blew us out of the water in week 2. But now they're facing the G2 that used to be strong. So is it going to happen again? Are they going to be able to keep the ball rolling? There's a lot on the line here, not just for these teams, but for the league as a whole and what we sort of expect the landscape to be as we progress through summer. I, for one, am very excited to see G2 with Dark Potato back on the lineup. It's going to be critical, I think, for them to have a strong showing here in game number 1.
I mean, you could reference them as like a God Squad coming into it from all the way back in spring. And now, not looking so hot, but with Dark Potato, the return. Key component, is that the kind of catalyst they need to come back into this one? Let's have a look at the compositions though. Heavy CC coming out from G2 on this Glaive and Lance, but coming into someone like an Idris and Koshka, 2 very mobile heroes, it's going to be hard to lock them down.
Yeah, especially because the CC is not easy CC from G2. It's not like Koshka's Yummy Cat and Frenzy where you just click on someone. It's more like, I need to get in the right position, or I need to land a skill shot on you. And those things are not easy against mobile heroes, especially Idris, who can just literally disappear for a bit. It can be kind of challenging to land those effects. That being said, a lot of what G2, I imagine, is going to be doing with their crowd control is using it very defensively, except for in the lane. Sure, you can find picks in the lane, perhaps. PT Lamb is in a dicey position.
I was about to say, talking about picks, PT Lamb in a very dicey position. Oh no, Hundor! He cancelled the auto attack. He couldn't do it. That was so close. PT Lamb escapes with the skin of his teeth. My goodness, that was close. The cancellation of Hundor's auto. Oh no, that's nightmare fuel.
That's gotta hurt a little bit, but at the same time, returning to the previous point, later in the game, this is all about protecting Samuel. Right, they're going to be using things like the Githian Wall, the Impale, even the Afterburn from Glaive to get on top of Dark Potato and buy him space, because he's the target that Rickameza and PT Lamb are going to be tunneling. Rickameza does, I think? No, not quite.
Rickameza is going to get Afterburned. It's going to get stunned here. Keenan is going to come up. Massive Impale, massive kill. First blood goes over to G2, and they might make it more Mowgli. Going to use that Vanguard over the wall. G2, tunneling him a little bit there. Didn't notice that actually PT Lamb was over on the other side, but beautiful Impale from Keenan.
All right, so G2, they still pick up first blood, even though their first attempt at it was so close and didn't quite pan out. I think Rickameza going for an invade there, fighting in the jungle specifically when it comes to this kind of invade, is a little dicey against a Lance early on. When you don't have a reflex block, you're going to be Githian walled into things, you're going to be jumped on, and there are only very small choke points for you to run down. So it's a lot easier to land things like the Impale and the Afterburn in the kinds of directions you want them to be in. That being said, I do somewhat agree that pressure should be put on by Dynasty. They just need to sync up Mowgli and Rickameza together to make that happen appropriately.
Well, they're going to jump on Hondo, and Afterburn away will get him to safety. Meanwhile, jungle has intensified. PT Lamb taking a fair bit of damage from that Drifting Dark. Potato putting on the pressure now as the 4 minutes do reach on the clock. Only about 1,000 gold lead. Look at Rikameza though. Sneaky kitty. Be able to sneak around to him. Maybe steal some of the backs actually away. Oh, they're going to go for the turret dive. I was looking at the cat. Wrong person to look at as Mowgli is going to fall. Kinu picks up his 2nd kill of the game.
So here's the question you have to ask yourself when that happens. If Rikameza was at the turret, do they not get the kill and do they not get the turret? I think at this early stage in the game, probably. Oh boy.
Oh my god.
All right, well now, at this point, we can ask ourselves all kind of questions. But let's just focus on the sort of main one here. Was that play, in the first instance, a good idea? I would argue probably not. I don't think they would have lost the turret or any kills had they just had members there to defend. Maybe they get kind of low. But that is something you can come back from. Losing your turret and 2 kills, that's a little bit harder to come back from, right? Like, you've got to take the path which gives you the highest odds of winning the game. That was not it. So, Dynasty, they're on the back foot here. They do have the opportunity to come back in the game, though. They've got a lot of pick potential on their team. They've got a lot of very sudden, all right, we're going to burst you down damage. So, keep an eye on them for them making aggressive plays, getting some good vision down. G2, they've got a lot of map to work with right now. Keanu's someone who does get good vision down. We've seen this in the past. If he starts getting some scout traps in, if he keeps his flare count high, there are opportunities, you know, aplenty for G2 to keep rolling the snowball here, building up a bit of momentum in the game.
I mean, that's it. The snowball is in effect right now, especially with the heavy CC composition. The amount of lockdown they do have and the Dark Potato follow-up is just absolutely immense. And that's what G2 kind of want to play around right now. Rikameza has hit the level 6 mark, however, so something big is about to happen if he does want to engage that yummy candidate frenzy on the back line. If G2 go for this overextension, they are just now pushing into Dynasty's jungle. They're going to take some of their front camps away. And that gold mine is looking pretty healthy. It's about half full right now. And G2 refusing to give up on some of this pressure. Oh, damn. That almost went over to Kinu. Rikameza luckily got the healing camp away.
Everyone on G2 has a reflex block now. Rikameza needed, and what you want to do often with Koshka, is to make a play right when you hit 6. Because chances are they don't have a reflex block yet. Unless they specifically bought one knowing you were about to hit 6. That window of opportunity is gone. So now, basically what Koshka's ult reads is burn your opponent's reflex block. That's frequently what ends up happening, rather than it doing anything in particular, other than being a gap closer. So that's a big window that is now missing. But also, Koshka, back when she was like 21-1 in North America in spring season, when we finally started seeing that number drop and the losses start to stack up, is when people realized that playing Lance just kind of countered her. They've picked Koshka into counting Nakoa's Lance here. I feel like it's going to be difficult no matter what for Rikameza to be effective.
Well, they're going to try and make a little bit of a play here. Hundle takes a fair bit of damage, but again, that afterburn to safety is going to be such a vital tool for him. He has picked up his Sorrow Blade, so let's look at the items power spikes happening across the board. Dark Potato, he's got his afterburn. Not his afterburn, his Frostburn. Close enough, though. That is going to be quite key. In fact, Hundle's actually going to get jumped on again, but again, just like I said before, it's just too many afterburns just away. It's very, very hard for Rikameza to actually get any of this damage to stick. They have the yummy candidate frenzy. May want to go for a little something here. Dark Potato kind of isolated, but nice Githian wall there. Oh, the Impale just going a little bit wide. There will be a fountain popped on the side of Dynasty here. Mowgli is just caught out in amongst 3 members, is going to go down, and that's going to be Kinu's another kill on the board. PT Lamb got re-engaged on. Rikameza's going to fall as well, and Hundle comes up big with a double kill and an ace for G2.
I think the idea was not terrible there from Dynasty, but the execution was a little bit overly cautious, right? Like they weren't sure if they were making the right play. That made them make the wrong play. If you wanted to dive in and kill Dark Potato under the turret, you certainly have the burst damage to do it from Dynasty. But if you don't find the kill, you're screwed because you're way overextended, you're under the turret, Dark Potato turns around, pops the Drifting Dark, suddenly you're taking loads of damage as you retreat. You have to be decisive and assertive with the kind of composition that Dynasty is running, and that was neither of those things. It was a good idea, but they just didn't commit to it. You gotta commit.
I mean, 100% kill participation for all members is a really interesting stat here, AJ. Every single one of G2 has been a part of every single kill. Is this Dark Potato's grand return into the VGA and on G2. This is looking so good for G2 right now. Dynasty looking for a little something here. We'll take the Crystal Sentry away straight under the noses of G2, but they are going to rotate here. They're flaring out this Tri-Brush, and in fact, they're actually just going to go back here to actually pick up another couple of items, I can imagine, as the whole of Dynasty do the same. So almost a complete reset here for both teams. There's going to be a big Crucible finish up here for Kinu. So they do accidentally miss one of their Reflex Box on the Mechanic Frenzy. He's there for the backup as well.
All right, so Dynasty, let's talk about their avenues back in, because things have changed a little bit from earlier. Earlier on, I wanted to see them try and catch someone out and pick them off. Right now, though, I think they're not going to be able to. Keanu is hopefully going to be getting enough vision up that they really avoid putting themselves in compromising positions. I think for Dynasty, your avenue back is capitalizing on an engage from G2 that's a bit overreaching. Trying to find that one person who's just a touch out of position and really committing to them for the burst. They have a lot of mobility and slipperiness, like you mentioned earlier on, Jaws. They have the ability to reset fights if things start going poorly. Right now, though, they're extending very far, and G2 could just catch them out.
They're going to look to do that. G2 over the wall. Rikameza needs to make some damage stick. Hasn't actually used the Mechanic Frenzy once this whole game. We are 10 minutes in, and he is level 9, so not looking too hot for him right now on this Koshka pick. But like you alluded to, people actually discovering that Lance does pretty well into the Koshka. And that's exactly what Kinu's been doing. This, not even Catalyst, just the re-entry for him into these fights is just so easy, as Rikameza has no way into them, really. Gauntlet is going to come down. Oh dear, that afterburn, thank God that was into the wall, otherwise he'd have been stunned massively. G2, seeing that ultimate going down is going to be pretty big.
Maybe he just changed where he was going to tap right at the last second. Who knows? Who knows? G2, though, they could probably go for Goldmine here. I mean, that was a Gauntlet burned. That's one of the biggest teamfight ultimates, of course, for the side of Dynasty. No longer available. You're not too worried about trying to find some kind of a fight right now.
Want to look for something. That gold miner is going to be hotly contested. Here comes the Oblivion. Nice use double Githium wall as well. But G2 can't really follow any of this up. They haven't really got any much more engagement. But no, that's going to be a gold miner release going over to G2 right now. Could this be another perfect game? I mean, we're only 11 minutes in, I know. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, AJ. But G2 are looking very fire right now. And they're going to push this lane in and have complete control.
You mentioned to me earlier on, is this the return? I think it is. I think they've just been needing Dark Potato back on the lineup. This was the lineup that they initially found such great success with. Messing with a winning formula is bound to, at the very least, have a period of time where you're kind of adapting to your new situation. But Dark Potato is very strong. This guy was one of the strongest players in Europe last season. I think we're seeing that here, and Dynasty don't entirely know how to deal with him right now.
Koshka clearly isn't the answer right now. Kinu's just happily sitting there fending him off. Rikameza gets a little bit of his jungle, but you can see Dark Potato chunking down this tier 2 turret. They're on about half HP. Going to be a big problem for them now. The siege as well for G2 is pretty strong because they've got a lot of disengage potential as well. Not only have they got a little bit of poke. BT Lamb, yes, he's got the chakrams, but hasn't really been able to make anything work. He's got Sorrowblade, he's got Poison Shear, maybe make something work now, but Dynasty, they're just getting pushed and shoved around. G2 taking complete control. They got the handlebars on this bicycle that is this game.
They do indeed. I love your analogies, Joss. They're always really interesting. Let's put it that way. All right, so G2. They have had to back away, though, because one thing that they don't want to do is overcommit. I mean, we mentioned it before. That's kind of how the counter-engage option pops up for Dynasty. And if they wanted that turret, what they would have had to have done is pop Drifting Dark so they could splash down the wave. If they do that, that is a huge green light for Dynasty to engage, because then, unless Dark Potato has popped it backwards, it's going the wrong direction for them to play the kite game that they want to play. So really, it's quite hard, and surprisingly hard perhaps, for G2 to actually push turrets, because they have to use their resources very differently depending on if they're going in or trying to kite.
Well, what do they need to do? Just poke and kite? I mean, that's what the game plan seems to be right now. They've slowed the game right down. We are 14 minutes in. The gold lead sitting at a solid 7k. In. Dark Potato on the side. There comes the gauntlet.
Oh,
it's going to be big, but it's going to get blocked. Hello. Kinu is turned online. He's going to get stopped. He's going to get stunned. Mowgli in the front line is not going to go down just yet. Oblivion did come out for G2 as well to dissuade the rest of the Dynasty members. There goes the kitty cat. It's going to go back to base. Another kill goes over to Hundor. They're just going to chase BT Lamb down as well. Another beautiful Githian wall. Kinu just under that turret will end up falling. No perfect game just yet, but G2 still pedal to the metal. That tier 3 turret will go down in a couple more hits. G2 just blowing my mind right now.
They are indeed, but you got to look at Dynasty and say there are these small things they're doing in fights that are putting themselves at a disadvantage. They're not communicating properly about where and when they want to commit. When Mowgli popped that Crucible, it was unnecessary if they were bailing on the fight, right? You did not need to use it to block the Oblivion if you weren't going to try and fight inside of the Oblivion. But he used the Crucible right as Rickameza leaves. Then there's no Crucible available, and Glaive can find an Afterburn onto Rickameza. This is the classic example of just miscommunication, right? It's the classic example, because what you're trying to do as your captain is facilitate different kinds of plays, and when you make a decision, it's normally like, all right, this is what I need you to do for my decision to be correct. It just wasn't there. G2, on the other hand, though, they're playing really smartly. That time, they did commit with the Drifting Dark. The reason they did that is because Keanu Nakoa is in the perfect position to interrupt the Gauntlet. And that's what they needed to do in order to commit and also be able to disengage if things got out of hand. So, yeah, really strong stuff from G2. They look great this game, Joss.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed, AJ. I'm not going to lie. Kinu kind of letting down the side a little bit with that one death. It could have been a perfect game, but needless to say, they are still looking good, like you said. Now, Dynasty, they need to find a way back in.
As I've said before, for me, a perfect game is I have higher standards. You have to have perfect kill participation too. And Keanu's only got 6 KP out of 8. It wouldn't have been perfect anyway, Joss. Let's be real.
My... that is 100% kill participation as well?
Yeah.
That is borderline impossible, but all right, I'll give you that. All right.
It's
got higher
happened,
standards than me.
It's happened back in the Evil 8. I remember it happening at least once.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, then it just doesn't sound as epic. Well, I guess it does because there are a lot more check boxes you have to actually tick off. But you know, whatever. All right. If that's how it is, AJ. If that's how it is in your book, I'm not sure how many perfect games you've ever got, but
I mean, it's how it is for me. But some people just have higher standards, and that's where I sit.
Oh dear. Dynasty need to buck up their standards right now because G2 are kind of walking all over him. This Kraken will be starting up, and that's actually a really bad back timing for Rickameza there. Kraken, nowhere to be seen. Mowgli flared it out. He's going to clear those traps and is going to spot the whole of G2 starting that one up, but
it
not
works
enough
out,
damage.
Though. It works out because they see Mowgli. They don't think that Rickameza's not going to be there if Mowgli's there, right? So Dynasty, that was a nice bluff, basically, by Mowgli. That being said, he's starting to wuss out a little bit with the, I guess PT Lamb showed in lane to shove there. He needed a little bit more money to buy Bonesaw or something. Kind of a strange decision, to be honest. Oh, okay. You don't want to use Gauntlet there either. This is getting out of hand. A couple mistakes stacking on top of each other right here, Jess.
Making a nice little tower of mistakes. That'll be G2 picking up that Kraken, and now Mowgli, yeah. He's misplaced one earlier, and he's done it again. That's a big cooldown, especially with Kraken coming up the board here, or up the lane. Be a board, unless we're playing a game of chess. Exactly what G2 are playing right now. They got the queen, and they're marching it down at the lane. And thing is, with Mowgli and that massive cooldown, there's only one thing those reflex blocks are going to be useful for, and that's that yummy Kinetic Frenzy. G2 in a very good spot. That turret is going to fall in a couple of seconds. Bada bing, bada boom. The base is open. G2 prime for the win.
They are indeed. Dynasty needs to make one last stand here to try and come back into the game. They're not really doing much damage to the Kraken, so it's got to be a team fight.
Not sad, boys. Pinging his ultimate, knowing it's down. Hundor taking a lot of damage from those turrets, has to end up backing off. Kraken's still at half HP. It's going to at least secure another turret. Kraken for 2 turrets. Very, very worth in G2's book. Maybe they look for a little something here. Githian wall onto Rickameza, but they're just going to handily take that Kraken off the field, and that will be 2 turrets and a half for G2 for that Kraken. So they're just going to rinse and reset now.
I have to admit, I think G2 played that very smartly. They could have, with slightly better positioning, specifically Hundor just playing. Like, Hundor does not need to be on the front line dealing damage to the turrets. He, in that situation, probably could have gotten away with just sitting on top of Dark Potato, so that he could provide disengage. As he took a lot of damage, G2 was disciplined. They were like, okay, we're not going to go too deep. We're not going to commit overly much here.
Oh, they're going to commit now. Hang on a second, because that's going to be a two-man Githyan wall. There's the beautiful gauntlet that we needed. Yummy Candy Francis is going to get blocked. Another beautiful Githyan wall to stun up Mowgli. Mowgli is going to be the first. He's going to take one of the first kills. Hunter's going to fall here. Dynasty are going to come up pretty big if they can find anything more. Kinu, half HP. Dark Potato couldn't find the support Hundor needed. Hundor was in the middle of 3 people and just got absolutely disintegrated. Beautiful target selection there from Dynasty.
Absolutely, and also, itemization is something that Hundor on this Weapon Power Glaive is always going to have big decisions to make about. When you're playing Weapon Power Glaive, you benefit so much from every point of weapon power that you get because you crit a lot, you have a lot of lifesteal, but at the same time, you do also need to have defense. And at the moment, up until this point, he only had an Atlas. He does get blown up really quickly if he's not backed up appropriately by his team. Dark Potato needs to be in position to capitalize on any moment where Dynasty commits to Hundor, and he wasn't quite there yet in that last fight.
That round 2. Dynasty. Got it in ya. Got it in ya. You're seeing Ty and Pretty on the leaderboard right now. I mean, looking at the point standings, they have 9 points. They're very far behind Mouse, yes, but everybody else is. Dude, looking to get their first points on the board. First set of points. We'll see how well they do tomorrow. Staying at 0. This is really and truly Dark Potato's return into this game. The synergy coming out from this team, you can already tell they're much more comfortable when they've got their full roster. Marching down the lane now, and we can see Dynasty. They are on their last limb. But if Mowgli gets another beautiful gauntlet off like he did before, it can really, really start to swing in their favor.
In Dynasty, you talk about G2 being really much more comfortable with this roster being back to normal. Dynasty feel like every week they start a little weaker than I'd like them to, and they get a bit more cohesive over the course of the game. I think based on, for example, that last fight, you can certainly make the same point. Game number 2, I expect Dynasty, regardless of the result here, to put up a stronger fight in the early game. We'll see what happens, though. Typically, their B-side draft has been their best, and it was not the case in this game number 1. Kraken's on the map. G2 has the opportunity to force Dynasty into a choke point here. Maybe go for a fight if they want to.
Kinu is super baiting. Nice two-man Githyan wall as well. There comes the ultimate, the gauntlet, and Dark Potato is trapped outside here. Oblivion is going to get blocked pretty big. Hundor's going fairly low as well again. PT Lam actually got slowed up and stunned up. There comes Hundor in the back line. Rico Bez is going to have to run away. Hundor's just chasing him down. Ends up finding the first kill of the game. Mowgli really weak now, and PT Lam in a 2v1. Kinu almost falls, and now he's going to turn his sights onto Dark Potato, but Hundor has arrived. Mowgli ends up falling as well. Another casualty of war as Hundor picks up his 7th kill of the game. And G2, they find 2 members of Dynasty. PT Lam, though, held his own against 2 members. Is this their way back into it?
So, I felt like PT Lam probably could have been a bit more in that fight. He was kind of close to full health at the end of it and did not commit to any of the low members of G2. After Hundor burned Afterburn, PT Lam probably could have dived for the backline or killed Hundor. One of those 2 options was not that challenging to execute on. Now that he's had to back up and the death timer is just so long at 22 minutes into the game, G2 finds a Kraken that I honestly think by rights they should not have found from that fight. This could be lights out for Dynasty, Jaws. I don't know if they have what it takes to defend when there's only 1 turret left on the map for them.
It's not even a turret, AJ. It's half a turret.
That's true.
There's not much left of it, let's be fair. It's battered and bruised. Batteries are kind of falling out. It's kind of rusted, like those toys you had when you were a kid. They just end up breaking apart, and all those memories that you had with them are lost. And that's exactly what Dynasty are looking at right now. Their base lost. The lane lost, and
You okay, Jaws?
I'm okay.
All right,
I'm
here's the
I'm
fight.
feeling good. Hang on, AJ. There's a fight. Gauntlet is going to come down. Oblivion actually onto G2 to protect them. Here comes Riku Meze. He needs to find something, but triple Githian wall comes through for Kinu. Here's the kite back. Exactly what G2 want. And now Dark Potato moving forward slowly. Remember that Kraken is in Dynasty's in the back of their head. They need to make something work now. Riku Meze jumps back in. Fountain pot for Dynasty as well. They're going to be healed up here, but Dark Potato, he's still full HP. PT Lamb's going to dive in and goes down. There goes Mowgli. There goes the rest of Dynasty. Dark Potato with the double. The Kraken's going to help finish off the base. G2 will take game number 1 off Dynasty. Dark Potato coming back strong.
He did not drop a single death this game. 2 for 0 for 11. This is the Dark Potato we all remember from spring season. Dynasty, they got to step up here after the incredible performance they had and the incredible growth they showed in week 2. The last thing they want is to have this stumble in round 1 of week 3. G2, on the other hand, this is their chance to make a big statement.
Will Dynasty let it slip through their fingers, and can G2 reclaim one of the top spots in the VGA? We'll have to wait and see. However, we're going to throw it over to the desk, maybe one last time after G2 with that dominating performance. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, guys. G2 Esports they're rising from the ashes like a phoenix once more with a phenomenal first game. I don't want to get too excited too early. It is only one game. The series isn't won just yet, but they've had a phenomenal start here.
Yeah, definitely the cleanest we've seen G2 look thus far this season. Able to pick up the victory, their first point of the season. Obviously not going to be enough for them, though. They still need to win this series and get a few more points both this week and next week if they want to claw their way out of the challenge zone.
Yeah, if I was Dark Potato, I feel really good right now. I mean, just coming back in the middle of exams and then getting a win for his team, they're going to be high on this momentum here. And you can see in the game, Dynasty didn't take advantage of Koshka. You can see the very first rotation, Koshka tried to contest. At level 2 is when Koshka invades jungle. Samuel's level 2. She did not make it in time to contest the backs of Samuel, so she missed out on that. And in the second rotation, Idris got really low in lane, almost died, but Koshka still tried to invade and contest the mid healer, and they 3-man collapsed on her and killed her. And Keanu landed a beautiful root in that one, and that's where I knew the game was over, because Koshka is not winning early game. Koshka should be winning early game, denying jungle off Samuel, and then from there, G2 just got the first turrets, then they snowballed and just played a really clean game.
I mean, they got to like 6-0, and it already looked very convincing for G2, and then once it got to the late game, we saw, I mean, we had the conversation about how the fights needed to be super quick for Dynasty, but they just weren't. They were such slow fights.
Yeah, very slow, drawn-out fights. Great job by the side of G2, again, protecting their carry. Most of the times when Dynasty jumped in, they either couldn't get onto Samuel, or it just took them too long to actually take his health low enough to be a threat. And Dark Potato, so many times, able to just throw out that Drifting Dark, a couple Malice and Verdicts, and he's healed all the way back up to that full. We saw in the last fight of the game, he was at full health when the fight ended because he was just able to survive so well thanks to that protection that the rest of G2 offered him.
Yeah, and Keanu had a great Githian wall there, canceling out Mowgli's gauntlet underneath that turret. That was a beautiful play by Keanu. As a player to watch, he performed really well in last. Landed some key roots, key Githian wall, just protected his carries really well. And also Dynasty, at the 8-minute mark mid-game, they were winning this early lead. Or not early, they're winning the mid-game fight, and they actually tried to get Dark Potato underneath the turret, and then they gave an ace over at the 8-minute mark. That was, again, another critical error with a early game competition that you cannot make mistakes and over-aggress the enemy underneath their turret.
Yeah, you can't allow them to just run away with it like that, and once you start to make those mistakes in the early game, it becomes very difficult to find your way back into that one. I want to bring up a statistic for you guys. Hundor, 100% kill participation in that game. We mentioned him right at the start of this series. Hundor, last week, even when they were losing, was having some highlight clips for himself. This game, absolutely stepped up, but the 100% kill participation, I feel like, isn't just a testament to Hundor. It's a testament to how well G2 have kind of regrouped as a unit.
Yeah, 8-1-5 for the final score line there. Just really strong showing. But, you know, also, just as a team, Dark Potato also had 100% kill participation on his side, having most of the kills, I believe, for the team as well. So it was just really, really strong showing across the board. So, like I said, just massive step up for the side of G2, but now they have to keep it going.
Yeah, is this just a miracle game, or can this turn into a series? We'll have to see. Looking into the second game of this series then, draft-wise, what are we anticipating to change here if Supremacy Dynasty, want to get back into this series?
Well, Dynasty needs to take Baron when it's up against Lance. Like, I don't know why they first pick Arden when they could have just taken Baron and then picked either Arden or Lyra with Baron if one of those were open. I mean, I felt like their draft, they had a chance to really win draft there, and they screwed it up by prioritizing Arden. And I don't know why EU teams do this. They like picking that Arden first on B side to secure the Arden away when there's other captains that are just as good, I feel.
Not only just as good, but when your opponent also has a captain already picked. I mean, granted, Dark Potato last season did play a lot of Lance in the jungle, but right now it's typically not going to be a jungle pick. Dynasty, they are so afraid of Keanu's Lance, they're going to go ahead and ban it away.
I mean, he did an amazing... honestly, I feel like Keanu has rekindled my belief in Lance as a hero right now, because we've seen Lance a few times. It's been fairly lackluster this season in the Vainglory8. Keanu last game, though, absolutely on point with his Lance, and now justifying a ban against him.
Yeah, and it just shows you how a good Lance can really hard carry, and that's what Lance is known for. And I was surprised that in EU, he wasn't picked that often until this matchup here. So now we have Baron, Grumpjaw, Lyra all open because Grace is banned. It's a good ban by G2. Now Dynasty needs to be very careful with their pick here. I feel like a good pick for them potentially could be the Grumpjaw because, again, there's so many different compositions you can play around the Grumpjaw. So first pick Grumpjaw would probably be the smartest idea, but they may just first pick Arden or Lyra here, honestly. Depending on how they've been drafting lately. There we go. Yep, they're going to go with the Lyra. Now Grumpjaw, Baron are all open for G2. So let's see what G2 is going to pick.
I really want to see G2 go for that Baron pickup, mostly just because I want to see Hundor on the Baron once again. It's so much fun to watch him get his hands on that hero. But I have a feeling that they may not go for it, just because obviously one, Grumpjaw being there, and two, just not really being willing to pick that up as with it being blind, which is weird to say because a lot of teams have been shying away from it if it's available, not grabbing it right away, but it's also been banned so heavily.
Grumpjaw definitely a reasonable first pick.
Yeah, also because Lyra's good into Baron, honestly. If the carries build Slumbering Husk and, you know, counter the burst damage from Baron, and also the portal and bulwark disables Baron's jumping, it actually counters Baron pretty hard. So that's pretty smart G2 to not pick Baron into Lyra here, but they should have banned Baron because now they're gonna have to pick Baron if they don't. Giving a team Baron Lyra is very dangerous. I don't know if PT Lamb plays Baron, so maybe they know that he doesn't play Baron, so they're not worried about it. So the Arden ban is gonna come out with Grumpjaw, which makes sense. On the side of Dynasty, Arden Grumpjaw is a pretty strong combination, but we do have other captains such as Finn, for example. You know, Kath, all very strong.
Even
with
Adagio.
Grumpjaw. And Adagio too, yeah.
Adagio is still wide open for G2 if that's something they want to go for. But also Hundor, a lot still on the table, and I was about to mention Baron made it through the second round of bans. I'm honestly a little bit shocked to see Baron picked up, but this late on into the draft.
Yeah,
it's definitely something that we don't expect to see him available this far in, but again, that Arden focus, this is something that Europe has. It's a heavy priority on that Arden pick, so Dynasty feel like banning away the Arden is more important than banning away the Baron. I do like that they're really heavily targeting the hero pool, though, of Keanu, saying, okay, you're not going to get your Lance. We're taking Lyra. You took away Grace. Arden is off the table. Like, they're going to have to go pretty deep down, but Catherine, I still feel, is a very, very capable captain player, or captain hero, and so I don't think it's really that big of a deal.
Yeah, and I still think that Adagio fits this composition awfully well as well. There's still options available, but you can certainly understand wanting to pinch the hero pool of Keanu after the performance he had in Game 1.
Yeah, Idris is a really good pick here with Lyra because Idris, any melee hero that can get onto Baron is very good. So I was going to predict either Glaive or Idris. So they're going to go with Idris here, which is very smart. So when Baron jumps, Idris can actually ult on top of him and stay with him during the ultimate of his Shimmer. So now I think the last pick here, they could go with an assassin like Taka and just basically blow up at this Baron here and just focus him, and then they'll win every fight. But instead, they're going to play the range game and go with CP Kestrel here. against the Grumpjaw. We've seen a CP Kestrel actually win when SK played it against Grumpjaw, and I think it's a pretty smart pick because now G2 doesn't win the range game.
Yeah, I feel like CP Kestrel against Grumpjaw is definitely a matchup that can go either way, but definitely if the Kestrel can play it well, there's a lot of potential right there.
Yeah, it really is. There's always a big potential when you have a Kestrel. It's such a big playmaking hero that can take over a game, and Idris is, you know, kind of along the same lines there. So a lot of damage coming out from Dynasty, a lot of potential to just really steamroll this game if they get an early lead. There is going to be Catherine coming through. Catherine very strong against the Kestrel, because if you can just get your body in front of those Glimmer shots, it's a lot of damage getting reflected back to your opponents.
Yeah, for sure. Catherine very strong against high burst damage compositions, but now we have our two comps rounded out. How are we feeling about this one? Because Catherine is something we don't see very often.
Catherine counters all three. Counters Lyra, Idris, and Kestrel, actually. The biggest counter to Idris is actually Catherine, because she can initiate and stun him, and then once he's stun locked, he's going to take so much damage, because if he can't A and go in with his A ability, he won't get that barrier initially, and that's going to be really hurting their chances here. So honestly, G2 I think has a better draft. Grumpjaw with Catherine is going to be able to clear out the traps. The shield is going to reflect all that damage from the trap, and then they can just go on to Kestrel. Also, when Kestrel's invisible and Catherine's getting hit, her shield is going to reflect, and they're going to see where Kestrel's going when she's active cam mode.
Okay. What are your thoughts about the draft so far, Bacon? How are you feeling about this second game?
Yeah, I really think G2 has a very strong draft as well. Hundor on Baron is just always a treat to see, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do in the lane. We haven't gotten to see him on this hero yet this season, so I'm just looking forward to that, but I think G2 will be able to take this one too well.
All right, well, it's just about time to head on into the second game of this series. Hashtag Vainglory8 is how you can let us know whether you believe in the G2 rebirth or whether Dynasty are going to even out this series. Before we head into the game, though, we had a little chat with Hundor way back in London, and he talked to us a little bit about his comfort picks.
We almost always had our comfort picks, so when we went into the game we felt really good on our heroes, so we didn't try something new. We obviously changed our draft throughout the whole season, but we always stayed on picks we personally really liked.
Very much, guys, over on the desk, and comfort picks coming into this one. I mean, definitely looked very comfortable last game. I mean, Hundor on this Baron as well. First one of the day. AJ, could G2 take this to a 2-0?
Honestly, with Hundor on Baron, you got to make the case that they perhaps can. This is a pick that even before Baron was popular, like literally right after Baron came out, he was making work, and no one else was. And then he kept making it work when it became popular too, obviously, because it's really strong. So then they've also got Dark Potato on Grumpjaw. I'm really hoping he goes weapon power, and they just blow people up. I think this is a comp that can totally do that. It's pretty hard to run away from them with Merciless Pursuit, Catherine chasing you down, keeping you locked up. On top of that, there's some good disengage here as well. I think G2's composition is very well-rounded and very well-suited to the team. On the side of Dynasty, sure, they've got strength here too. I mean, I don't want to be misleading. I think they have a good composition as well. But G2 have that extra element, which is just how comfortable they are on these picks.
Is sometimes key. And there's so many squishy members of Dynasty as well. You look at Idris, you go, okay, pretty squishy, especially in the early game. Mowgli isn't going to be prioritizing massively into defense, has to go for that fountain first. And then you've got this Kestrel. If she gets jumped on by Dark Potato, could end very, very badly, like we saw in SK versus Supremacy earlier on today. There's a lot of Dark Potato, a lot of targets for Dark Potato to gobble up. We'll see who he does want to target, and then you got Baron for late. Like I said, I agree, completely all-rounded composition. Now, it depends how they play the early game.
That is true, and the early game is something with Baron that you never can entirely predict sometimes. If they get off to a great start, the game ends really fast because Baron, does so much with gold. But there are plenty of games where Baron has to play really safe because there's a lot of pressure in the lane or what have you, and it means that you have to play for the later stages of the game. That's not something Grumpjaw really wants. So I feel like Grumpjaw and Catherine are going to be trying to set Hundor up for one of those early game Baron games. It really is volatile though, because if it goes wrong, they're going to have to take a step back and be like, all right, you know, we're gonna play for the later game. We'll see what happens.
Play for late, and you'll get a very, very destructive Baron. And I guess they've kind of got Dark Potato in that regard to kind of subsidize their early stage. There's a lot of damage early, and I mean, is he going to go for this Tension Bow build? It's looking like he wants to build it now. He's got 6 sins in his inventory. That is so devastating. We saw earlier, I mean, I can't get the picture out of my head. Tyra is almost one-shotting someone with 3 weapon blades. It's too terrifying to kind of think about. And even if PT Lamb steps up to him, he's got a lot of mobility, but Dark Potato is just going to chase.
Yeah, I would like to see, honestly, both of them just get a Tension Bow and just try and snowball the game. Double weapon power has plenty of vulnerabilities. You do have to acknowledge that fact, but at the same time, when you're taking 2 of the strongest heroes with weapon power, and you're putting a Tension Bow on both, you can really make plays early game that you just shouldn't, you feel like you shouldn't be able to, in terms of the burst damage. They do need Keanu to set these picks up for them, and they need Dark Potato now. I would say now that he's got Tension Bow boots, he should stop priority farming the jungle. He should start trying to make plays for sure. Absolutely, because they need to utilize the power spike they're about to get. Although Hundor looks like he might actually go Starblade first, so maybe going back to his roots and picking up Starblade Breaking Point is going to be his option for build path this game.
See what he wants to prioritize, but he's going to wander up towards the lane now. Tension Bow mentioned, like you said, is going to dive straight, and that's a lot of damage. Here comes Mowgli. He's going to jump jets forwards, but G2 just taking a lot off the back of this one. Rika Meza coming back perfectly there. So those glimmer shots raining through 2 to 3 members of G2. They are going to have to be a little bit more cautious next time they want to approach a fight.
They really are. That was actually very telegraphed from G2. I think it was pretty obvious they were going for that play. And on top of that, Dark Potato committed to it a little out of sync with his teammates. Hundor really was not ready to fully go in there, and it was a bit deep for his liking anyway. Knowing that he was going for Starblade rather than Tension Bow changes the earlier point regarding when they should go for fights. I'd say it's not after Dark Potato finishes Tension Bow, it's after Hundor finishes Starblade, and they have both of those power spikes. As it stands, though, they were able to pressure a little bit, perhaps. They're starting to get some wave push coming in from Hundor, and Dark Potato looks like he's going for a proc build. Again, this changes the dynamic. I think G2 are playing for a slightly later game situation here. You can see already, though, why maybe they need to do that as Hundor gets chunked down very low by PT Lamb.
Yeah, and with the disengaged potential of Mowgli as well, he's got that Bright Bulwark. As soon as Dark Potato comes in, Bright Bulwark down, you can't do anything, you're snared up, and then just focus all the attention onto Hundor, which is exactly what they did do. Ooh, Dynasty looking for a little something here. Set up those active camo traps, they're pretty strong, the siege is pretty strong as well. Just G2, they have to be proactive in this team composition. Both junglers now, they haven't actually gone down to their jungle in a meaningful amount of time. And Dark Potato really wants to make something happen. Keanu comes in with a stun, Bright Bulwark is going to force them back once more. And look at the damage on Dark Potato. A fountain had to be popped as well from Keanu.
It becomes much more difficult to go for the play G2 went for once PT Lamb actually unlocks his weapon discipline, because he can blink, right? And that means that Dark Potato, he's like about to get an attack. He has kind of a long wind-up on his basics, his Grumpjaw. He's about to get an attack down. Suddenly PT Lamb blinks away, and you're just sitting there doing nothing as Grumpjaw, and that's not the situation you want to be in at all. This is actually a good power spike for Dynasty, where they can really put pressure on without being too at risk of counter-engage. That changes later, but for now, this is a window of opportunity for Dynasty.
Oh my goodness, Dark Potato denied again. Those glimmer shots raining through from Rico Meza as well. Really making this damage stick. Dark Potato can't find an entrance. Hundor can use those jump jets to get away, and Kinu's going to come through with the Merciless Pursuit onto Mowgli. Be about it. That turret being chunked down ever so slightly, ever so often as well by Riku Meza's glimmer shots. Dark Potato is still half HP. He's going to need to be really, really careful here. Who comes in? He gets the stun. Hang on a second here. Kinu might just go down. Oh, nice! Oh my god! The damage coming out from Hundor. Ace. Hang on a second. Blast Tremor straight into Dark Potato's hangry.
Where'd they go? Jaws, what happened?
Oh,
Blinked and I missed it.
I don't know. Hundor turned up. That's what happened.
It was, I mean, it was everything though. Like, that was perfectly like a concert of abilities from the side of G2. They played that as well as you possibly could have, syncing everything up. If any of that happened slightly delayed, there was a reaction window for Mowgli to, you know, get a heal down, get the bulwark down, something like that. Really strong stuff there from G2. That shows that this is a lineup that had that performance in spring. You know, these guys know how to play together as a unit. Now Hundo has picked up a tension bow on top of the Sorrow Blade. It's a different order than maybe you would have expected if he was going to go for that item. But that really opened up the game for G2. They are now firmly on the front foot.
Oh my god. That right there. I said earlier about Nightmare Fuel. That is Nightmare Fuel. Holy moly. Dynasty. He's to be a little bit careful. Kinu combo. Kinu combo. He's got his ultimate up again. That was a combo. That's what I was trying to think of as well. Kinu has got that Blast Tremor up. Merciless Pursuit lands on Mowgli. Here's Dark Potato. Blast Tremor. Ion Cannon will be healed up though. Oh, Dark Potato in a lot of trouble in the back line. Mowgli's going to be able to kite him out. PT Lamb's going to join the fight. One shot, one kill. He's going to strike Dark Potato and take him down. Kinu comes up big with the stun on PT Lamb to stop the advance, but Hundo still going to have to play fairly back. Riku Meza still raining down those glimmer shots.
If Keanu had tanked one shot, one kill, I think maybe that fight gets turned around, but doesn't quite find it. Hundor's got a lot of damage, man. You got to be careful about going under the turret if you're not going to focus Hundor. It's a little bit risky. We got Grumpjaw on the way back here as well. Dark Potato might be able to set something up for his team just based on the amount of damage they have here. But it looks like Dynasty's going to play it smart. They're going to back up.
They're going to back up real fast. They need Dark Potato to be in that fight. He's actually got Aftershock as well. So Aftershock Tension Bow. Pure one-shot build. Wow. I guess not fully one-shot because you haven't got double monocle, but you need that source of crystal power damage to come out for G2, and that's exactly what he's gone for. Even picked up a really early infusion. That's sitting his inventory as well, so you know they want to fight. And to be fair to them, their ultimates are on a very short cooldown. That Blast Tremor can really wreak havoc to the back line of Dynasty. Riku Meza, if he can't do much but Glimmer Shot, going this Crystal Power build, he ain't doing no damage with those basic attacks. So they're going to have to be very, very careful for another like-for-like engage.
I absolutely agree with that. One thing I'd like to see G2 do a little bit differently, and they did this to great effect earlier on in that one fight that they dominated in, is really sync up the engagement. So Dark Potato is hitting at the same time as Keanu. Because right now they're like waiting for Keanu to get a stun, then they're going in together. I feel like if they go in with the stun and Dark Potato so he can deal damage to the stun target during the stun, that's how they burst someone down and make it so that Hundo has space, right? Because they need to go in together. When they did that effectively earlier on, it was devastating to Dynasty. I'd like to see it a little bit more here. But this is the thing about G2's composition, right? We talk about redundancy sometimes. They can still just play for the late game if they want to.
Well, they're going to want to look for an engage here, possibly. Kinu with the Blast Tremor. It's going to get pulled over, though. That's a beautiful move from Mowgli. The Riku Meza almost goes down. Fountain's going to get pulled from Mowgli. It's going to keep him alive. Now, PT Lamb in the front line is going to take out Hundo. They are on the retreat now. One shot, one kill is going to hit, but PT Lamb gets chased up. Dark Potato takes the kill, and now Mowgli is on the menu for this hungry, hungry beast. Dark Potato wants to make something happen here. He does find Mowgli, doesn't have stuffed. And now Kinu cannot really find another entrance into this fight. 1-for-1 trade. G2 and Dynasty still just battling out for these single kills.
That was an interesting fight, actually, and a very smart engagement from Mowgli to just portal in. It kind of ended up with him and PT Lamb going over the Blast Tremor. When that only lands onto Riku Meza, it makes Hundor's life really difficult because PT Lamb burst him down extremely quickly. They do end up coming out, I would say, on top because they got a kill and the gold mine. But if the Blast Tremor had landed properly, that would not have been a close fight. So you can see how much of a difference it makes. This is something Mowgli needs to be very... have a large amount of presence of mind about. You know, he's either got to crucible that Blast Tremor, or they need to just commit to a fight and avoid it entirely.
Bit to a fight and avoid it entirely. G2 do not want to let this go at all. They've got a grudge with Dynasty, apparently. They're willing to fulfill it in this series. That one shot, one kill. It's going to go a little bit wide. Steps to the side and emotes really quickly just to make sure they know they missed it. Now, Dynasty, at least they've got that turret down, which means they can actually push it into G2's jungle. Now, what does G2 do with this information? They do actually spot them out here. Dark Potato's going to use that Hangry to get over the wall and guard the Crystal Sentry for the moment. The gold mine was taken by G2, so again, the gold lead is stretching in their favor, but only by about 2,000 right now.
G2 back in the position where we saw the fight most recently. Maybe we'll see another one here. It's going to be all about that blast tremor. Does it connect or not? Dynasty, they can avoid it, can definitely go for the encounter engage. Hundor is not very tanky right now. Only got a light shield to his name. Is not the greatest spot to be in terms of defense, especially against PT Lamb, who's dealing that weapon damage and bursting him down very quickly. But if Hundor finds attacks for free...
Hang on a second. Mowgli's in a little bit of trouble, so PT Lamb gets stunned up by the Mercen's Pursuit. Hundor's raining down damage. He's going to jump Jess forward. There goes the blast tremor, and there goes PT Lamb's life. Mowgli is going to get chased out. Riku Meza takes a 600 damage rocket to the back. Mowgli goes down as well. Hundor, I'm afraid to say, AJ, has come online.
He has indeed, and this is what you got to worry about when you're playing against Hundor, and Baron's strong. I think, you know, teams have been not picking Baron today. We actually heard the analysts talking about this, and they were saying maybe people are out of practice because get banned so much. Well, Hundor, of course he's not out of practice. Are you kidding me? Like, you got to ban Baron against Hundor, dude.
Ban him! Ban it away! You can't let it through. I mean, being a very meta ban as well at the moment, it's quite surprising it got let through, but clearly thought others were needed. I mean, we saw the Lance ban away in this draft from G2, away from G2 even, from them. Dynasty saying, we don't want to deal with that again, but, you know, letting this one through, like you said, is a little bit of a problem, and posing quite a bit of a situation for them. You look at his items. 4 items already. He's got Tension Bow, Sorrow Blade, Tornado Trigger, and the Monocle. He's 2-hitting people right now.
He really is, and PT Lamb, you know, he's doing what he can to mitigate this somewhat. He's picked up a Metal Jacket. I like that a lot. But Baron is one of those picks where building defense helps, but doesn't necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things, because you're still just going to get blown up. Really, you need to kill Baron before he kills you. That's the best way of dealing with a Baron. I think PT Lamb can, but he needs to get onto the back line quickly. And he needs to deal with Hundor before Hundor kills the rest of his team. A large portion of that is going to be Mowgli, getting those good arcane passages in, perhaps. They've got to do it before the blast tremor comes down. We've talked about that before, too. There's so many ifs, so many things that Dynasty need to do to make this work. It might be too many for everything to go right in one fight. You know, it's hard to play that perfect.
It's pretty hard to play a game perfectly, especially by your standards, AJ. Very hard to play a game perfectly. Bracken on the board, 15 minutes into the game. G2 looking pretty strong. 4K in the lead for them, with a turret advantage as well. Now they are looking to open up the map even further. An infusion onto Hundor. If he wasn't looking scary, sure is right now.
If he wasn't looking scary, you're blind. Let's be
I know, right? It's actually insane. They want to go for another engagement, though. PT Lam's going to get set up. Mowgli comes through the passageway, but they're holding all their abilities. Iron Cannon is going to come down. There's the blast tremor they were looking for. Hundor is in the front line. PT Lam just can't stand up with the damage. But Hundor might just go down. He does. PT Lam finds the kill. Now Riku Meza needs to find something here on Dark Potato because he just trades 1-for-1 thus far. Mowgli in the fight with Dark Potato. Kinu in amongst 2 people. Glimmer shots can't quite finish off the kill. Now Dark Potato is just chasing Mowgli down. That mixed damage and that burst is all too much right now for Mowgli. Kinu's going to be able to get the recall off, and now Dark Potato, he's going to get chased down. Riku Meza and Mowgli, are they going to be able to find this one? He wants to carry on going here, AJ.
What is happening?
Not sure he's going to get away. One shot.
Just kill him.
No, they decide to let him live.
All right, let's
happy
talk
with the
about that
one-on-one.
Let's talk about that fight before it's too late, because these fights just keep on coming. I really think Hundor went a little bit too deep there, right? Like, he saw that a lot of things had been burned, and he was like, now's my time to shine. Jumps in, goes on the back line. PT Lam is like, well, I still have ultimate. So if you commit to me, I'm just going to jump inside of you, be able to avoid a lot of your cooldowns, a lot of your damage. You won't get any attacks down to reset your jump, right? As a result, it's pretty easy to pick up the kill on Hundor after that, especially because Hundor was committed to PT Lam on the back of the fight when Dark Potato was on Riku Meza and Mowgli on the front. Hundor, honestly, I think should have committed to the same target as his team to just get an early man advantage and then snowball through. Perhaps moving into the next fight, something for G2 to keep in mind.
Well, keeping in mind that Hundor just doesn't, if he doesn't die, they win. The biggest kind of question in their heads right now, or at least thought process. That Kraken is available. I was about to say, G2 know that actually 3 members of Dynasty have backed, and they have Hundor on this Baron to take this Kraken out. They're just going to tank this one out, no problem. It's on about half capture progress right now. It might just get taken over. Mowgli spotted it. Here comes Riku Meza as well. They're going to want to try and fight this. If this goes over to G2, it very well could be the end of the game. Mowgli takes a rocket. Now Kinu's going to come in with the stun. The Marion's going to get unleashed. And the Kraken is going to go over to G2. The Baron unleashed on Dynasty Gaming. They need to just find a way back into this game because Hundor right now, he's just unstoppable.
He's definitely looking very strong. I really like the Slumbering Husk pickup by Hundor, by the way. A lot of the damage he's taking is in very small windows in very high amounts. So this item is perfect for dealing with that. With the siege potential of a Baron, the onus is on Dynasty. They need to make a snap engagement as soon as Hundor hits the tower. That's difficult to do because Hundor, Dark Potato, they both deal a lot of damage and they got good ability to disengage and sort of kite backwards. It's all down to this. Dynasty need to defend.
Oh my god, try defending against that, AJ. The burst damage from Dark Potato and Hundor's consistent damage output with the rockets is just too much. Jump jets forward. Oh my god, what was that? See you later. Hundor picks up one. Iron Cannon's going to come down. PT Lamb in the back line. And oh dear, Mowgli's got an eaten. There comes Dark Potato. He pops out the belly. G2 find a double. They might just find the game as well. Death time is a little bit too long now. Hundor just absolutely decimates Riku Meza, and G2 are going to decimate Dynasty Gaming in this best of 3. They go 2-0 and looking much stronger than they have in previous weeks.
They do indeed. Dynasty has got to be feeling really rough after that game, though. As I said, they were on such an upward trend. Week 1 to week 2, the growth was so massive. But G2, they just bring their core lineup back, and suddenly they look unstoppable. That's a tough spot to be in. I really think Dynasty needs to be careful to maintain a strong mentality after that. But Mowgli's been through plenty of championships and tough times during his career. I'm sure he's got some wise words for the team. I'm excited to see what they do next week and if G2 can keep the ball rolling this time around.
It's all up here for G2. Now we're going to chuck it back over to the analyst S one last time. Thank you very much, guys, for watching us and listening to us at least. Joe, guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. What a game coming out from G2. Once again, they are going to take the series 2-0 in the end over Dynasty. I feel like it feels strange for me to say, but I feel like G2 were the underdogs coming in, but their roster has reunited, and so has their in-game play. Absolutely stellar performance.
Yeah, really well played across the board, top to bottom by G2. They were able to take advantage of these high-risk compositions that Dynasty was running. Both games, Dynasty ran the composition that was a ton of damage, but not a lot of durability. And unfortunately for them, they just were not able to